All right, ninth grade, welcome to week 3 of hybrid learning. And of course, as always, this is your rundown video. In this rundown video, I'm going to be going over at length each assignment that I have posted for you this week. This week there are 4. But before I get into that, I want to make a quick note, a quick announcement. I have explained this in the past. However, it has occurred to me that still many of you are attempting to get your work done using this stream view, which is really complicated and really confusing because, as always, it's just giving you all your assignments in a really long, convoluted list. Please, please, please do not use this view for our hybrid asynchronous humanities work. This is why so many of you are missing assignments, so many of you are forgetting to turn things in, is because you're having to scroll through this list and find what you've been assigned this week. Always use classwork. Classwork, it lays it out for you by week. This is week 3, and here are your assignments for this week. Please stop using StreamView, start using classwork. All right, so you're watching the rundown video. Let's go ahead and jump into number 2. So this week we are covering we learned last week about what food deserts are, and this week we are beginning to understand why food deserts are a thing. So we're sort of exploring the origins of modern day food deserts. And a huge critical factor of the origins of food deserts is the redlining and housing discrimination that happened in the 1930s. So this week is all about understanding those things. We're going to start, number 2, with an NPR clip. It's called A Short History. And this assignment is asking you to watch a clip and then answer the questions as you are receiving that information. So we are taking a break from some of the note-taking that we have been practicing the last couple of weeks. Not to worry, we have several articles to read in the coming weeks and several more opportunities to practice that note-taking. However, because this is just sort of an initial understanding of food deserts, I thought we could use some sort of engaging resources and materials to initiate our research into the origins of food deserts, and we'll be applying those note-taking strategies on articles in the coming weeks. So you'll, of course, first always read the directions. So many of you start an assignment without having read the directions and then come up against some issues or some confusion, which leads to you having issue with successfully completing the assignment. So obviously it should go without saying, but please read the instructions first. The instructions are asking you first to review this vocabulary legend. I've provided you some terms that you need to be familiar with in order to understand the information you'll receive in this video. And then secondly, to read through all of these questions and concepts that I'm going to ask you to answer and reflect on. Okay, so by reading these first, we are priming our mind so that as we are watching the video, we are prepared and know what to look out for. Okay, then you're going to use this link in order to access the video. And once you've started this video, I want you to approach this video in the same way that we approach text. So I want you, as opposed to just watching it all the way through, I want you to pause occasionally, think back about the information you just learned or information you were just provided. I want you to reflect on that and respond, right? And especially I want you to be on the lookout for these concepts that I'm going to ask you to sort of speak to as you go through the video. At the very end, there is a space for you to just reflect on the information that you've just reviewed, right? So think of this as like a journal entry, very informal. I'm just curious. I want to read your reflections and your thoughts about the information you just read, okay? Also, before I move on, you'll find that I think there's 10 questions total, but each question has 1 or 2 or sometimes 3 different prompts. So when you're responding to each, please make sure that you're responding to each bullet and not just choosing 1 or 2 for each. So that is number 2. Number 3 is an interactive map that you are going to explore and then reflect and respond to. Okay? So again, as always, I'm going to ask that you read all of the directions very carefully before you attempt to do the assignment. Okay, so the instructions are up here. In the instructions, you are going to be prompted to review the vocabulary just as you did in the previous assignment. Again, this vocabulary is so important for you to really fully understand in order to grasp what it is that you're looking at for this particular assignment. So this assignment, after you've finished reviewing the vocabulary, you can move on to the instructions, or essentially the steps. Just follow the steps, 1, 2, 3, 4. You will access the map using the link. I want you to specifically find San Diego. You're going to have access to all the regions that were redlined and mapped back in the 1930s. But for these purposes, I want you to first at least start with San Diego. Once we're in San Diego, I want you to click through the different communities and then read some of the area descriptions. And then, of course, after you or while you are exploring this map, I want you to think about and answer these questions here. So let's take a look at this map. All right. So a few important things to know about this map. First of all, you'll see a series of different colors, right? And in the first assignment, you're going to learn what each of these colors mean. But as you can see, it's a map of the entire U.S. and all of the areas that were, I guess you could say, graded by the HOLC. I would absolutely, if I were you, look into some of these other communities and sort of read what the HOLC had to say about those communities. But for our purposes and for the purposes of this assignment, we're going to focus specifically at San Diego. So find San Diego on the map and click to open. A few things you need to be aware of. First of all, these buttons up here to zoom in, to zoom out, or if you want to get back to the actual map, you can use this little map icon here. And that's how you can get back to review some other regions across the U.S. Let's see, I'm going to zoom in a bit. So once you've found the map, you'll see how our San Diego city was sort of mapped in different districts. Okay, so if you highlight each of these, you'll find that you're able to select. And when you select one of these communities, off to the left here, you have the words or the description. This is the area description. So you have the description that was drafted up by the HOLC. And this description is essentially a justification for the grade. So you'll see that it is yellow. Yellow means it was given a C. And essentially the area description that follows is the explanation of that grade. So why was this particular area, University Heights, given a C? Well, read here to see what the HOL had to say about this particular community in order for it to score a C. And I want you to kind of click through some of the other communities, right? So here we have Old Town. Here we have Loma Portal, or like Point Loma. Here we have Pacific Beach. Up here is La Jolla. So I want you to make sure that you're spending some time reviewing all of the different areas that were redlined and just kind of clicking through. Read what the HOLC had to say about each of these, right? And as you're reading these area descriptions, I want you to pay very, very close attention to the language, to the words, to the descriptions of these communities, because this is all very important. And I want you to keep in mind a few other things as well. First of all, this was done in, the HOLC was established in the 1930s. So a few important things to keep in mind. First of all, in the 1930s, our city was not as developed and established as it is now. So you'll find, for example, National City, oops, let's zoom out a little bit here. National City, for example, you'll see it's kind of just this white area here. It was undeveloped, essentially. Not a lot of homes, not a lot of, there was nothing there at the time. Of course, since then, National City now is a booming community. But know that the difference between San Diego in the 1930s compared to now, you will find areas that are like just blank or don't have anything written, and that is most likely because it was not yet developed. And then also, I want you to think about the language that you're reading in the area descriptions. I want you to think about what kind of words and what kind of descriptive words we use to describe people and places in the 1930s versus now. And I want you to reflect on that, and I'll ask for you to sort of explain your thoughts and sort of process and reflect on that in the assignment. So once you've had a chance to kind of click around and take a look at this interactive map, I'll ask that you refer back to your assignment and answer these questions. And again, notice that there are, in some cases, multiple prompts within a single box. So make sure you're addressing both prompts, both bullets, and not just one or a few. Okay. So lastly, you have a Friday Flipgrid. Occasionally, I will ask you to record a Flipgrid where you reflect on the concepts and the ideas that you discussed or that you learned over the course of the week. So let's take a look. This Flipgrid is a review and reflection of redlining. So I want you to essentially just, in your own words and very informally, and it should be more conversational, discuss what you learned. Specifically, I want you to make sure that you're referring to each source, so not just the video and not just the map, but both. I want you to summarize what you learned, and then I want you to share your greatest takeaways, so perhaps a few impactful quotes, ideas, or connections that you made. And then also, keep in mind, these need to be at least 3 minutes. In the last Flipgrid we did, I had people turning in 45-second Flipgrids. That's just not enough to really fully summarize and reflect on the material. So make sure that you are really going into depth. If you're having a hard time getting to 3 minutes, then keep talking more and more about the things that you've discussed. This is several hours worth of work, so there's no way you should be able to summarize several hours of work and research and learning in just 30 seconds. Okay? All right, if you have questions, as always, go ahead and send me an email. However, if you have questions, the first thing that I'm going to ask is, did you watch the rundown video? If you did not watch the rundown video, I will not be offering any kind of support until after the rundown video has been watched. But I'm looking forward to seeing you next week, and good luck.